He thought being a tourist gave him the right to do anything. Grabbing the royal guard's weapon as if it were part of some amusement, the crowd held its breath, expecting silence or inaction. But the guard's response, calm yet commanding, set off a chain of events no one could have predicted. What happened next would leave everyone questioning their assumptions about respect and tradition. Let's start from the beginning. The morning light bathed Buckingham Palace in a soft golden glow, the scene straight out of a postcard. Tourists bustled about, snapping pictures, their chatter mixing with the distant hum of traffic. Amid this lively tableau stood a figure of unwavering composure, a member of the Queen's Guard. His tall, black bearskin hat added an air of stoic authority to his red ceremonial uniform. He was the embodiment of tradition and duty, a living reminder of a time when respect and discipline were virtues, not punchlines. Enter Sarah and Daniel, a pair of American tourists who had already decided this would be a day to live a little. Sarah, dressed in an oversized hoodie emblazoned with a London Rock slogan, was busy scrolling through her phone for viral challenges. Daniel, sporting sunglasses despite the overcast skies, radiated that peculiar mix of bravado and entitlement some tourists mistake for charm. "Look at him," Sarah said, nudging Daniel. "He's like a statue. Do you think he's real?" Daniel grinned, a mischievous gleam in his eye. "Real or not, he's here for our entertainment, right? I mean, what's the point of dressing up like that if he's not going to do something?" Sarah chuckled. "Maybe we should, spice things up, make him crack." Daniel leaned closer, his tone dropping conspiratorially. "What if I grab his musket? Think he'd chase me?" At this moment, anyone with a shred of common sense would have thought, maybe don't provoke a trained soldier. But alas, Daniel wasn't one for common sense. With the exaggerated casualness of someone trying to look inconspicuous, Daniel approached the guard. A ripple of curiosity passed through the crowd. Some tourists began nudging each other, pointing and murmuring in anticipation of whatever foolishness was about to unfold. The guard stood motionless, his gaze fixed ahead, as if he were carved from marble. But there was an almost imperceptible tension in the air, like the stillness before a thunderstorm. Daniel feigned adjusting his camera, his movements theatrical, and then with a sudden lunge, he gripped the musket resting at the guard's side. The reaction was instant. The guard, without moving anything but his lips, delivered a single bone-chilling command: "Release it. Now." The tone wasn't loud, but it carried the weight of centuries. A voice steeped in the gravitas of duty and tradition. The crowd froze for a moment. Even Daniel hesitated, the musket suddenly feeling far heavier in his grasp. And then, as if doubling down on his mistake, Daniel forced a laugh. "Relax, buddy. It's just a joke." The mood of the onlookers shifted from amused curiosity to uneasy disapproval. A middle-aged woman clutching a Union Jack umbrella muttered, "This is disgraceful. Where's the respect?" Nearby, a father pulled his child closer, whispering something about how this was not how one behaved at Buckingham Palace. But not everyone disapproved. A group of teenagers snickered, phones raised to capture every moment. "This is going viral," one of them said, grinning. Daniel, still holding the musket, turned to the crowd as if expecting applause. Instead, there were murmurs of discontent. Sarah, sensing the tide turning, tugged at Daniel's sleeve. "Maybe we should stop now," she hissed. Before Daniel could respond, the guard took a single step forward. The movement was deliberate, purposeful, and impossibly menacing. It was as if a lion had stirred, no longer content to endure the antics of a pesky hyena. The crowd gasped audibly, a collective intake of breath that echoed like a verdict. Daniel, caught off guard, released the musket in an awkward motion, nearly stumbling over his own feet. It's just a joke," he stammered, holding up his hands. But no one was laughing anymore. For a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. The guard resumed his stance, his expression unchanging, but the atmosphere had shifted. The crowd was no longer just an audience, they were participants in a moral reckoning. "You call that a joke?" someone shouted from the back. "Disgraceful," another voice chimed in. "He's not here to entertain you." Daniel, visibly uncomfortable now, tried to wave it off. "Come on, folks, lighten up, it's not a big deal." But it was a big deal. It wasn't just about one tourist and one guard. It was about what they both represented, the erosion of respect for tradition and the quiet dignity of those who upheld it. As the murmurs grew louder, Daniel realized he was no longer in control of the narrative. This wasn't the harmless prank he'd envisioned. This was something else entirely. A spotlight shining on his arrogance, exposing it for all to see. And the guard? He stood tall, unshaken, a silent reminder that dignity doesn't need words. The tension hung thick in the air, a palpable weight that made even the wind seem hesitant to disturb the scene. The guard, having reclaimed his musket, stepped back into position with the precision of a well-oiled machine. His face remained unreadable, a mask of discipline forged over years of rigorous training. But there was something in his stance, a subtle shift that spoke volumes. This wasn't over. Not yet.